owed wages individually or as a group such as a class action. The Employment Lawyers Group has maintained a high win rate and a serious record before the California courts. Please call 877-525-0700 for an experienced work lawyer. That's 877-525-0700. They have call takers standing by. Online, research the firm at worklawyerca.com. They have offices throughout Southern California. If you hire the Employment Lawyers Group, your legal problem becomes theirs to solve.
This show furnished by Karl Gerber and Employment Lawyers Group.
Talk Radio 790 KABC. You're listening to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show, and I'm Karl Gerber. I've got a news flash. Just in here, news flash. President Trump's 2020 campaign will be conducted from federal penitentiaries throughout the country by good men and one woman without a Twitter name. Yes, the station offers both sides of the opinion, and I write my own jokes. I've got a guy in front of me here, and I want to get him talking. So go ahead, sir.
I am improper.
Congratulations.
Why are you congratulating me?
The first words out of my mouth to one of my guests are not always an insult.
Yeah, I'm improper, representing myself.
Since you said it again, and it's the second thing you said, it's now fair game.
This isn't a game. I won my labor commissioner hearing.
What did you win?
Read this.
You won 32 hours of overtime, 3 whole hours of double time, 158 missed meal breaks, and 20 missed rest breaks for a total of $6,200 and change. BTW, this paper says your name is Chap.
Now, can we sue for all those things the labor board didn't give me? The penalty for 30 days of pay, PAGA penalties.
Sorry to burst your bubble. The only thing you can do now is appeal this to a judge in Superior Court.
I didn't put the PAGA penalties in there. I just found out about them.
When did you last work at your employer that you sued?
I last worked for, the name is embarrassing, Cyclops Security 2 years ago. No, three years ago. No, it must have been 2016 because everybody was playing Pokemon Go. I got hit in the nose by some dude saying he was swatting a Charizard.
Did this happen at work?
Yeah, I was in charge of a post in Lawndale. Nothing there but a guard shack due to contamination. Property had to sit for 50 years before it could be sold.
This sounds like an environmental hazard to you. Why was it okay for you to work there?
Oh, it wasn't okay for me working there. Their excuse was this was year 48 out of a 50-year period, so it wasn't too likely contamination still existed.
Gee, I hope you've been checked out.
I was. That is part of the problem.
Are you okay? What exactly is wrong with you?
Quite a bit, but that's not why I'm here. Yes, I was checked out.
You should consult a workers' compensation lawyer.
I mean, I was checked out.
Did they already do an AME or an IME on you?
This is why my meal breaks were interrupted.
I'm a little confused because I saw the Labor Commission thing. It says you're paid $26 an hour.
Yeah, I was supposed to manage a database for the parent company, but my manager stationed me doing security.
I'm glad this is getting weird. For a minute and a half, I thought you might be normal and have an ordinary employment problem.
I told you there's a lot wrong with me.
Yeah, you have to have a guard card to do security.
Well, Molly made me get one.
I had a cat named Molly.
She wasn't exactly a pussycat.
Actually, my son named the second cat Molly we got at the pound. The first Molly was a noteworthy feline, almost up there with the lemur, but the lemur was... there are no words to describe the lemur. I do believe you can read about it in Modem Stud.
After 6 months, Molly ordered me to the guard shack. She claimed there wasn't much going on at the contaminated property. She said the database could be managed there in a more confidential fashion.
What exactly was in the database?
Terribly dull figures. I'd rather not go into it on the show.
Thank you for respecting the interests of our listeners. They unequivocally are not here to hear something mundane.
My legal problems are unusual. They call for somebody with your particular expertise.
Yeah, I'm detecting a few things here. Databases being maintained sub rosa in a security shack on a contaminated property with a plentiful supply of Pokemon.
Dude, it was ridiculous. All the people scaling the barbed wire fences to catch some stupid Pokemon.
Were there warning signs on the fences?
Oh, yeah. Beware radioactive materials. There were deteriorated skull warnings, a drawing of a brown metal cabinet with those warnings and pictures.
What is the significance of the brown metal cabinet?
I'm not sure. I thought you'd know.
Do not open radioactive material. This was a phrase used in the 70s to deter thieves from stealing camera-related equipment. That is all I'm at liberty to say right now.
Yeah, anyway, I get sent to the guard shack. I get my guard card. I get the database. It's important. A couple weeks pass. Molly comes in on my lunch break. I'm eating a tuna fish sandwich. I'm training a little, trying to bulk up now that I'm passing as security. 120 pounds doesn't look right on me.
Were there any particular health risks associated with eating mercury-laden protein in an environmentally contaminated guard shack?
Yeah, I was told there was lead paint on the walls and asbestos in the ceiling tile.
Now I understand why you're getting $26 an hour.
Molly shows up. It's hot. The guard shack is from where there was some aerospace company there that got closed down for an accidental atomic explosion.
Jesus Torres! I know some stuff like that happened in Chatsworth and Simi Valley, at least leaking radiation, but I never heard about this in London.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot they don't tell everybody. Like, take, for instance, the whole city of El Segundo.
Actually, that's not a secret. There was an old joke. Was your wife supposed to hold her nose when you're driving through El Segundo? And there was some sexist reference.
I'm still hoping to buy a Tesla.
That's your funeral.
No, seriously. I mean, they're going to be collector's items if the company goes out of business.
Yeah, the best boat I ever had was an electric boat. 9 years and not a single repair bill other than one battery.
It's Molly.
The cats?
Come on, my manager. So it's hot as Hades in the guard shack, no air conditioning. I'm eating the tuna fish sandwich. I joke the radiation's probably causing the heat. She takes off her jacket, like a blazer for women, black. She tells me she thinks she pulled a muscle doing an investigation for a company she's trying to start. She says it's so bad I can see it. I tell her I'm not too sure you can see a pulled muscle unless it's really, I can't say the word on the radio. Anyway, messed up. She laughs. She starts pointing with her arm behind her back. She yelps. Not a review. Yelps in pain. Topples over towards the counter where I have my sandwich. Dang, the lady's face falls into the pineapple.
Pineapple?
I'm feeling tropical. It's been hot in there the last couple days,
You brought a pineapple to work?
Does it matter? They gave me a bayonet for work. I was going to use it on the pineapple.
Now we're getting somewhere in this story.
Molly can't get up. I ask if I should call an ambulance.
Okay, I get it. Your lunch was interrupted this one time.
She tells me if I hit the back of her head, the pain will go away.
Seriously?
She said some guy next door did that the second time in a row when he uncontrollably said this weird thing. Oh, yeah, I'd hear it. It was so loud. Ubba, ubba, ooh. Ubba, ubba, ooh. Ubba, ubba, ooh, Duffy.
The guy said, ubba, ubba, ooh. Ubba, ubba, ooh. Ubba, ubba, ooh. Duffy?
That's weird. You're saying it just like the guy did.
You didn't happen to work next door to Nouveau Vague novelty toys, did you?
How'd you know that? Oh, I forgot. You're an expert on Los Angeles.
Actually, I had the misfortune of playing PJ BC III's first live piano concert last week, and it was terrible.
That's his name. Completely bizarre name. Oh, you do know what the BC stands for, do you? I mean, that's also the guy who played the kazoo. It drove me crazy when I was at Cyclops Security.
Yep, he talked about playing the kazoo after dinner, especially if you had a good variety of peas from a fresh farmer's market.
Well, I didn't hit my boss in the back of her head, if that's what you were thinking.
No, you're a little swifter than some of the guests I've had on this show.
I ask Molly where it hurts. She tells me. I said I'd heard a nerve pain can be massaged out.
You weren't fired for sexual harassment, were you? Well, a lot of these sexual harassment cases start up this way.
I was not fired for sexual harassment.
Were you fired?
Eventually.
Oh, right. Please continue.
Molly had on a sleeveless shirt. I never really understood why women can wear tank tops at work. Anyway, she told me about some compression technique she learned in Cuba.
I think I've got this piece together now. Her side business wasn't third-party neutral investigations, was it?
It was. God, you're good.
All of these weird people are connected, and they're all fictional characters on this show. You're listening to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. I'm Karl Gerber. The show's heard every week at this time. You also can stream it on the internet at the Karl Gerber YouTube channel. I would encourage you to do that tonight. Someone is standing by named Duffy, and you can tell us who your favorite character is in this show, and you can include Chap because he's on tonight in episode 19. If you want to call me off air about a legal problem at work, a termination, sexual harassment, your own wages, you should do it. 877-525-0700. Once again, 877-525-0700. That's 877-525-0700. We'll be back to hear more about Molly Machete after this break.
Lunch. Real people need a real lunch. Real people need a real lunch. Real people need a real lunch.
Since 1993, the Employment Lawyers Group has been a results-oriented law firm whose goal is to get the client what they deserve. They've represented thousands of California employees who've lost their jobs, been sexually harassed, subjected to employment discrimination, or were owed wages on an individualized or group basis, such as a class action. They have a high rate of success. There are few situations involving employment law that they have not confronted. At the forefront of employee rights, they're often the first employee law firm to confront a new legal issue. For an experienced employment lawyer, call 877-525-0700. That's 877-525-0700. They have call takers standing by. Online, read more about the firm at employeelawca.com. They have offices throughout Southern California. Make your work problem theirs to solve.
My number two does not look like a number two. I don't know what to call it. Is there a number three?
Table for 4, please. Anything close to the restroom.
A middle seat with these stomach problems? That's my fear of flying.
Sound like you? If it does, you could be one of the many people with a digestive condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. Even if you don't know what EPI is, you might know the symptoms: frequent diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain. If you have even just one of these symptoms, you could still have EPI, because not everybody experiences EPI the same way, which is why it's so important to open up to your doctor about all your symptoms. And the good news is, EPI is manageable, so don't keep a lid on it. Go to identifyepi.com, complete the symptom checker, and use it to have a conversation with your doctor. Don't keep a lid on it. Visit identifyepi.com. Brought to you by AbbVie.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit beefy, or even with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Affordable term life insurance is out there. Call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-481-1458, 800-481-1458, or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I should have done this years ago.
Disclaimer, traveling back in time is physically impossible unless you know how to build a functioning time machine. Then by all means, travel 25 years back in time, switch your car insurance to Geico. You could save a bunch of money. While you're there, please prevent your younger self from wearing that sleeveless tuxedo t-shirt, parachute pants, and glitter high tops to your senior prom. And at long last, rectify this horrible crime against nature. Geico is absolved of all liability if you destroy the fabric of time and space.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Some people say
Talk Radio 790 KABC. You're listening to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. I'm Karl Gerber, and I'm not on any anxiety meds. I'm not over 50 either. Hopefully I won't be by then. So you're listening to this show, and we've got a guy in the studio by the name of Chap. And Chap is working on some kind of a contaminated job site in Lawndale next to Nouvelle Vague Novelty Toys. We've heard of that company. And he's got a boss named Molly, who I detect is going to be Molly Machete from that episode Bored at Work, the person who actually died of boredom at work. And you should be on YouTube now voting for your favorite character. You also should be looking at our best of video. We have a couple images of what some of our characters may look like on that video. But we've got to get back to this program. So, Chap, I've got to turn this over to you.
So, Molly said stuff like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, she said, like, stuff. Like, what kind of stuff?
Well, she told me to pounce on the middle of her spine with my index finger. So I did it. She recovered like that. It was miraculous.
I'm not sure what kind of a compression technique that is. This is mildly interesting to me, and there's so many coincidences.
No, I really helped her.
Did all of this interrupt your 30-minute meal break?
The first time it was okay. She needed my finger.
More people should be flicked off.
I said I used my index finger.
Same difference. For someone with only an index finger on their left hand and an index finger and a little finger on their right hand, that right hand index finger is technically a middle finger when both hands are held up together.
The thing the dogs do, you sure know how to argue anything.
I think a lot about flicking people off.
That's too bad.
If somebody interrupted my meal break, I'd flick them off. I have to leave the office to eat. Too many interruptions to digest.
Well, since you're non-exempt, I mean, your meal break can be interrupted.
True.
After the first time.
Flicking Molly off?
I never flicked her off. Why do you keep saying this?
You keep giving me these little bits and pieces about your labor board case. All we have so far is one meal break was interrupted because your manager almost died, but your index finger saved the day.
The next day, she came in, and the same thing happened.
You flicked her off.
I wanted to. I really wanted to.
Why the hell didn't you just do it? Then we'd maybe have got you fired, and we wouldn't have to hear about your labor board case.
I can't believe you're saying this.
If it took this long to cover your other 157 interrupted, missed meal breaks, we're going to be here forever to get your testimony on the rest.
Well, I was only awarded for 20 rest breaks.
This is a 60-minute show, actually left with commercials.
Okay, to make a long story short.
I think you've made a short story long.
Every day she comes into my guard check when I'm at lunch. She asks me to use my finger. Soon she asks me to massage her back. And then...
Catch your breath, for God's sake.
I lost 158 meal breaks because my manager made me touch her back.
Young chap, you've got to take a break. I can't have my live guest fainting. Otherwise, I'd have to recite the entire Fair Employment and Housing Act to fill up my time.
Please, not that. Not all that reading about discrimination and harassment and disabilities and supervisors, even employers. I hate employers.
It's going to be better now. It's going to be better now that we've got that off your chest.
No. She made me slap her with my chest.
Are you sure this wasn't sexual harassment?
Every day. Day after day. Lunch break at 12:15. I roll out the sandwich, 12:16. Superman thermos, 12:17. 12:18, take a bite. 12:20, she's knocking on my window.
Did you ever tell Molly you were on a lunch break? Employers have to know that they're interrupting the lunch break.
She knew.
How?
She can tell I'm eating.
She could have thought you were on a 10-minute rest break, or you didn't want to leave the premise for your meal break and you were waiving it.
I had to clock out by 12:15, no later than 5 hours and 15 minutes into my shift.
Presumably Molly knew that.
She trained me.
Did you make it clear to her you didn't want to massage her or whatever you're doing with your chest? What does your chest have to do with this again?
Well, eventually my pecs got pretty hard. I mean, she told me all that muscle was as good as my index finger.
How big is this guard shack?
From like here to here and then like there to over there.
Great description for radio. No one has any idea what you're talking about.
My work ledge was 22 inches deep. There were 5 floor tiles to the back. Each linoleum tile was 12 inches by 12 inches. One row in the back was so worn the linoleum was gone. Just a layer of asbestos insulation. Little fragments blowing into the air with every footstep, coming into my lungs when the Pacific winds blew southeast. I wager on saying inside of the guard shack was 8 by 8, and there was 3 or 4 feet in back of me, depending on how closely I huddled toward my computer on the ledge.
Now that we put all this into proper perspective, the southeast winds, the beautiful contaminated flying debris, this Molly wouldn't happen to be Molly Machete, would she?
Yeah, how did you know her name?
I've been consulting with Remus Helms, clairvoyant. I don't have to listen to the news anymore.
The Remus Helms, the most important man in Sun Valley. You know him?
He's sat in the very seat you're sitting in. So has his brother Demas. He's referred quite a few guests to this show.
Is there any way you could introduce me to him? He's a very unusual man.
I don't usually socialize with clients, and I certainly don't do business with them.
He's your friend? Oh, I didn't know you were that weird.
He most certainly is not a personal friend of mine. You think I hang around cosplay ostrich ranches with my sons? And contrary to fake popular belief, I certainly never represented that man, Remus Helms.
Sorry. I thought you were the lawyer, the young lawyer who got him $200.1 million when his genital was infringed.
The only reason why I believe he may have received such a tidy sum in $1995 is the man has an incredible budget these days for wasting money with Easter bunnies at midnight. We can't say anything more about Remus Helms right now.
Okay, Molly.
You're still listening to Karl Gerber, Workplace Lawyer Show on Talk Radio 790 KABC. I'm Karl Gerber. I'm a real lawyer. I don't think Chap is a real character other than a fictional character. But Molly Machete, I met her 3 weeks ago. She's about 5'7", fairly average build. I'd say mid-40s. I'd say there wouldn't be much room in that shack to avoid her if you're in there, too.
Because I've had to massage her back about 151 times.
Utterly fascinating, but not to me.
If you saw what I saw.
I saw the devastation after the Northridge earthquake. Cadillac Eldorados trapped underneath subterranean parking structures where subterranean termites might be in a tank. And on Willis, I saw that tank near the old Save-On, and now CVS. I could tell you stories all night long.
You know, I think Molly's been tortured.
That woman's a tortured soul for sure, flipping three-wheeled vehicles into billboards advertising the show, acting like a double agent for both XIO 415 and the Helms family.
XIO 415? You've heard of them? Well, as an employment lawyer, I'm sure you've heard of most of the companies in the area.
Yeah, in my real life and also the fictional weird ones we talk about on this show.
Weird? I that doesn't say enough about XYAO 415. The only reason why I won the labor board case was because they bored the hearing officer into a near slumber.
Cyclops Security is a sufficiently odd name. What's the connection with XIO 415?
So XIO 415 acquired Cyclops Security, immediately changed the name, and tried to turn my job into a snooze fest. They sent me a confusing electronic message about a shift change from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. because they thought it would be a duller time to work, especially without a meal break. Due to the importance of the database, I was supposed to waive future meal breaks. The message had so much code in it, and the corporate name being all letters and numbers, it went to my spam box. I showed up at the normal shift time and was fired by email at the end of the shift. I'm happy I got out of there before something happened to me, though.
What happened to you? More trouble with Molly?
Hell no! She quit the day of the buyout. I've heard people actually died of boredom there.
That claim was made by Molly Machete, but when I and Seth Krell, the workers' compensation lawyer I hang out with, went to talk to this alleged pathologist who, unbeknownst to me, happened to be my brother, who claimed he had consumption, he said he never did any pathology reports on the death. He needed to know a lot more about the lab test, and he wondered if stress and other factors contributed to her death.
God, that's sad.
What? The fact we didn't exactly receive the corroborating evidence we hoped for?
Molly kept in contact with me after we both left.
Were you friends with her? Did she think you wanted to spend your meal breaks giving her the back adjustments?
I don't know why she would think that. I'm not saying she's unattractive or anything. She's got a good body for someone her age. She's a little older than me. I'm not into women with short hair, and she's kind of weird with the miniature cars, suspected CIA past. Besides, at a certain point when she showed up during lunch, she told me she was there for her daily pressure service.
Did you ever socialize with her off premises?
That was against company rules. She was my manager.
Was there a conversation about non-work related things during the pressure services?
During the pressure services, she'd ask me about data fields, whether I backed up. A lot of times she gave me instructions about priorities for the week or the rest of the day.
All right, you're listening to Karl Gerber, Workplace Lawyer Show. I'm Karl Gerber. If you have an actual legal problem involving a job termination, sexual harassment, maybe a class action, something interesting like we talked about in the show, I'd encourage you to call me at the office at 877-525-0700. Once again, 877-525-0700. That's 877-525-0700. We're talking to a guy who manages a database on a contaminated job site. He had to get a security guard card to go there. I don't know why he has to be on a contaminated site, managing his database. It seems like a very strange place to be managing a database, but it is the problem here that he didn't actually get meal breaks. They were interrupted by his manager, who seemed to be demanding that he give her what he's referring to as pressure services. I'm not
pressure
really
services.
sure what a pressure service is. It's weird, but the person who did this is Molly Machete, who was a third-party neutral, not really neutral, investigator on the episode that we heard about people being bored to death. So when we come back, we'll pick this up and you'll find out more about these unusual workplace events.
Not lunch. Coffee, that's not lunch. Real people need a real lunch. Real people need a real.
Talk Radio 790, KABC News Update. I'm Steve Cumming. The sheriff in Jacksonville, Florida, says 3 people are dead, including a suspected shooter, following gunfire that erupted during a video gaming tournament in downtown Jacksonville. Sheriff Mike Williams says only one shooter was believed involved.
The single suspect in this case is a white male, 24-year-old David Katz from Baltimore, Maryland. And the FBI is assisting us with that leg of the investigation in Baltimore.
President Trump went against the advice of senior aides to issue an official White House statement praising Senator John McCain for his heroism and decades of service, telling aides he wanted instead to post a brief tweet. Trump's tweet last night did not mention McCain's military or Senate service, nor included any praise for the late Arizona Republican. KABC SoCal weather clear this evening, then low clouds overnight with lows in the lower to mid-60s. More news coming up and continuous coverage on KABC.com. I'm Steve Cumming, Talk Radio 790, KABC News.
Since 1993, the Employment Lawyers Group has been a results-oriented law firm whose goal is to get the client what they deserve. They've represented thousands of California employees who've lost their jobs, been sexually harassed, subjected to employment discrimination, or were owed wages on an individualized or group basis, such as a class action. They have a high rate of success. There are few situations involving employment law that they have not confronted. At the forefront of employee rights, they're often the first employee law firm to confront a new legal issue. For an experienced employment lawyer, call 877-525-0700. That's 877-525-0700. They have call takers standing by. Online, read more about the firm at employeelawca.com. They have offices throughout Southern California. Make your work problem theirs to solve.
Wow, we've never had this many customers.
I think we could get used to it.
As a small business owner, there's that moment when you knew all of your efforts were worth it. And when you get money back from SoCal Gas, you'll know that investing in new energy-efficient natural gas equipment was worth it too. You could receive up to thousands of dollars in rebates and improve your bottom line. Apply today with our new online application at SoCalGas.com/businessradio. Programs funded by California utility customers and administered by SoCal Gas under auspices of the CPUC.
Are you occasionally stressed? Feeling fatigued? It doesn't have to be this way. Support your body's response to all kinds of stress. Promote energy levels and nurture a sense of well-being with Quantum Nutrition Lab's stress support, B12, and adrenal support. For a limited time, all 3 are on special. Buy 2 bottles and get the 3rd one free. Call 888-588-7578. That's 888-588-7578. Or visit us online at qnlabs.com. That's qnlabs.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Bob Marshall, PhD, host of Healthline. Tune in to get your questions answered and hear the latest breakthrough information for you and your family. Our product line, Quantum Nutrition Labs, delivers what others only promise, nutrition that really works.
Chef Jamie Gwen here. Join me Sundays at 12 noon to feed your soul. This Sunday, we're getting smart about spices with Dr. Kanchan Koya, and we'll celebrate National Cabernet Day, so toast with me. I'm live on Sunday at 12 noon right here on Talk Radio 790 KABC.
Would you like to retire soon and have questions you'd like answered? At Money Matters, we are a retirement specialist, and we regularly answer questions that concern those who are preparing to retire. Call us today to meet with a trusted financial advisor and get your questions answered at 800-994-0302.
Some people say a man is made out of mud.
That's what they say, but this is Talk Radio 790 KBC. I'm Karl Gerber. This is the Karl Gerber Workplace Show, heard every Sunday from 7 to 9. 7 to 8. I just wanted to see if you were listening there on this very station. And of course, we're live streaming as we've been doing. And I want you to vote for your favorite character on this show so far. We have so many to choose from. Demas Helms, Remus Helms, Starlight, Lisa Glickman, and the list goes on and on and on. So if you feel like calling the station tonight and doing that vote, I'm not going to talk to you, but you can vote for your favorite character, and you should call the station at 800-222-5222. Once again, 800-222-5222. You're going to vote for your favorite character on the show, and you're going to call 800-222-5222. And if you don't, there are going to be repercussions, but I'm not going to really get into that right now. So before we broke, we were talking to somebody with the name of Chap. And he was working, of course, in the contaminated guard shack with just a little asbestos flying around, working on a database. Very strange job. I'm not really sure what this is all about, but we need to find out more because all we know so far is he was missing some meal breaks. So we got to get back to this whole thing. Chap, I got to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Did you have any ever contact with Molly Machete?
No. I mean, I never went out of my way to make contact with her. Once when I had a serious seafood injury, eating crab over the weekend, and I didn't want to do a pressure service, she told me to double up the gauze and power through.
How serious was the seafood injury?
0.08 of a millimeter, skin puncture to digitus 2 menace.
Oh dear, I feel for you.
If you can believe it, the skin puncture got bigger and bigger and never healed, with me being forced into pressure services Monday through Friday. Over the weekend, I did a lot of dishwashing, sanding metal dorsals. It's not enough time to heal.
I understand your meal break claim. It sounds like your manager interrupted your meal breaks and made you talk about work and perform pressure services when she should have had the decency to give your expanding skin puncture time to heal.
Yeah. I mean, there was no way I could take a rest break at work.
What is the basis for your rest break claim? If you were prevented from taking a rest break and you're non-exempt, there might be something there.
Well, yeah. You're supposed to take rest breaks every 3.5 hours, right? One before your meal and then one after.
You've got it down pat.
The business next door prevented me from taking my rest breaks.
One, I'm not clear how your employer knew that. Two, I'm not clear how a third party could prevent you. And three, I'm not clear why the employer is liable for that.
That's some of the reasoning the labor commissioner gave me for only awarding 20 rest breaks.
Well, why 20 and not some other number?
The hearing officer reasoned 13% of the time during the morning I was prevented from taking a rest break.
Interesting.
The business next door did something from the second hour of my shift to the middle of the fourth hour.
You can be told to take rest breaks the first 2 hours of your shift.
Cyclops didn't want that, given the time difference in Afghanistan. Yeah, I needed to be in contact the first few hours of my shift. It's a 12-hour time difference.
What does Afghanistan have to do with this?
The database I maintained was for the United States Army in Afghanistan.
Oh, you're a government contractor.
You got it.
Can I ask what you did to maintain or manage a database? I don't think you earned enough to be an exempt computer programmer, but if there was some management involved in that took independent discretion, maybe?
This is confidential, right?
Not really. I'm hoping 60,000 people are listening right now, and 60,000 will hear this afterwards.
Dang, sanitary napkins aren't exactly top secret.
A lot of women want to keep them concealed in their purses, be discreet about disposing of them.
Every single sanitary napkin used by the United States Army in Afghanistan was accounted for in my database.
Wow, that's a big task.
Yes, sir. 600 million sanitary napkins used in a population of 1 million over a year's time. Every single last one accounted for in my database.
It's ludicrous.
The United States believed they could conquer the moral underpinnings of the Afghan people if they got a good percent of the childbearing population to use their sanitary napkins without charge.
Oh, this sounds classified.
Actually, I just made that up. I don't have any idea why the United States Army was keeping close tabs on every sanitary napkin used by the Army or passed out amongst the Afghan people.
Who were you talking to in Afghanistan the first few hours of your shift?
Mostly General John Campbell.
Like a rhinestone cowboy.
Karl with a K. He was the top commander in Afghanistan back in 2016.
On a daily basis, how much time did General John Campbell devote to the inventory of sanitary napkins?
We talked for a good 2 hours the start of my shift. I believe he had other involvement regarding the sanitary napkins throughout the day and night. Obviously, he was a very hardworking general.
It does seem your employer wanted you at the general's disposal the first few hours of your shift. Didn't you say before the fourth hour of your shift, the neighbor did something that prevented you from taking a rest break?
Oh, I'd rather not go back there.
You are listening to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. I'm Karl Gerber. I am a real lawyer. The person on the other end here is not a real client. I encourage you to call me off air about a confidential legal problem you have at your job. Hopefully you've actually been fired, sexually harassed. I don't hope that's happened to you, but I just hope you don't call me to tell me about a job that might get fired from, but hasn't happened yet, and I'm just supposed to sit on the phone for a half an hour giving you hypothetical advice. Ha, ha, ha. So if you want to call me, and maybe you don't, but a lot of people seem to, the number is 877-525-0700. Once again, 877-525-0700. That's 877-525-0700. I'm also encouraging people to call the station and vote for their favorite character that has appeared on this show. We have so many to choose from. That number is 800-222-5222. Once again, 800-222-5222. Call the station. Tell us about your favorite character on this show. Come on, they're pretty weird. 800-222-5222. We're taking a poll. That poll is also being taken on the live stream of the show at the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer channel. It's Karl with a K, in case you didn't know that, because my name is not spelled with a C. Okay, now that we've got that straight, we have been talking to, of course, a fictional character named Chap. He works in a guard shack, maintaining a database we have just found out is an inventory of every single sanitary napkin that the United States Army distributed in Afghanistan. We're not exactly sure why this was being maintained in the database. We're not exactly sure why he had to work on a contaminated site doing this, but he did, and he had some problems getting meal breaks. It sounds like his manager decided that instead of him taking the meal break, she comes in at clockwork and makes him give her a pressure service. And I'm not completely sure he wanted to give all those pressure services to her back because it caused him further injury. But she demanded it. It interrupted his meal breaks, so it sounds like he legitimately won his labor commission hearing for the meal breaks. He also told us he had some problems with rest breaks, and it sounds like the first 2 hours of his shift, he had to talk to a general in Afghanistan. The general obviously had nothing else to do but talk about sanitary napkins for 2 hours, even though there was some kind of a conflict in 2016 going on in Afghanistan. And so this guy couldn't take those rest breaks at that exact moment. He had to wait. By the way, people, you need to go to workplacelawyer.org. You need to listen to the old episodes so you can get this vote down. We need to vote on these fictional characters. It's very important. We're going to maybe have some prizes for the weirdest character that has been on this show. And I think we got to have them back, right? So I encourage you to call the station again, 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. 800-222-5222. We'll have a poll up tomorrow or the next day on the Workplace Lawyer, all one word, .org site, where you can listen to all the old episodes. You can listen to our new best of, which is getting a lot of likes. It has some depictions of what some of these characters would look like. Lisa Glickman has a big butt, but as I remember in the book, she had a more pale face and she had blue eyes and shorter hair. So that picture is not quite Lisa Glickman, but the picture of Dumas, oh, that's a good one. You got to see that one. You got to see it. It's a guy with just a bald head and a grin and a really tacky sports coat and some kind of a black shirt underneath, and he's really kind of large. So I encourage you to go look at that video, catch up on these, because this is how you learn the law. You learn it by bizarre hypotheticals. You don't learn it by me having guests on and talking to them. That is just boring. So when we come back, we're going to find out more about the situation with Chap.
It's not lunch. Coffee, that's not lunch. Real people need a real lunch. Real people need a real lunch.
Since 1993, the Employment Lawyers Group has been a consistent force in fighting for the rights of California employees. They've represented thousands of employees in cases in which they've lost their jobs, been sexually harassed, discriminated against at work, or owed wages individually or as a group, such as a class action. The Employment Lawyers Group has maintained a high win rate and a serious record before the California courts. Please call 877-525-0700 for an experienced work lawyer. That's 877-525-0700. They have call takers standing by. Online, research the firm at worklawyerca.com. They have offices throughout Southern California. If you hire the Employment Lawyers Group, your legal problem becomes theirs to solve.
The Online Trading Academy is a leader in investing education designed to generate monthly income and grow your retirement nest egg. Today, you can register for a free half-day class at one of OTA's financial education centers throughout Southern California, including Woodland Hills, Westwood, and Irvine, offered conveniently around your schedule. I'm so impressed with the Online Trading Academy that I've signed up for my own class, and you can too. Give them a call at 888-991-TRADE. That's 888-991-8723 to attend and get 2 free passes to their next half-day class so you can check all of it out. And if you call right now, they'll send you home with a free Kindle Fire 7 tablet computer with access to their do-it-yourself investors kit just for attending. It's loaded with exclusive investing courses and some of their best lessons from the pros. This is a limited time opportunity and seats go fast, so call right now. 888-991-TRADE, 888-991-TRADE, or visit them online at freetabletota.com. That's freetabletota.com. Tablet offers while supplies last, must be 18 years of age or older, and 1 tablet per household.
The national debt is now over $20 trillion. What happens next? Rising inflation drops in the dollar's value. Some experts say another crash is coming. You can fight this, not with stocks or bonds, but with gold and silver coins in an IRA from Augusta Precious Metals. Call 855-858-5807 and learn how an IRA backed by physical gold and silver can hedge against inflation. Call Augusta Precious Metals right now at 855-858-5807 and get a free gold IRA guide. Call 855-858-5807.
Introducing new life-proof, slip-resistant wood-look porcelain tile from the Home Depot. Starting at just $199 a square foot, it's 50% more slip-resistant than ordinary tile. It's waterproof, stain-proof, scratch-resistant, and works indoors or out. Step confidently in your kitchen, bathroom, patio, or any area of your home with new life-proof, slip-resistant porcelain tile. Just $199 a square foot, only at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. Selection varies by store. Slip resistance based on tiles that meet a DCOF less than or equal to 0.42.
Some people say a man is made
Talk Radio 790 KABC. You want to make something out of it? This is Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. I'm Karl Gerber, and this show is heard live every Sunday from 7 to 8. And we're live tonight as usual. So we got a guest here, and I got to say, man, come on, old chap, get it out. We need to know the nitty gritty.
Okay. 2 things happened.
And they were?
Shrinkage was scheduled for a couple hours from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Over there at Nouvelle Vogue Novelty Toys. They were up and running and the first shift by 9, and they were ready to shrink the product.
We've been down this path before on the show. PJ BC III claimed they were shrinking their products in order to create a Lilliputian warehouse environment before they went virtual.
I can't erase. I can't. I just can't.
It's okay. We're going to save you from that experience. I have a good idea how it all worked. Probably a cosplay actor with a gamma ray shrink gun.
They actually shrunk stuff.
Like the shrunken heads on the Jungle Cruise? You know, people made jokes about my old Duffy Electric looking like the Jungle Cruise ship.
During shrink, there was no rest.
This job you had at Cyclops sounds like a nightmare. There's shrink from 9 to 11 a.m. and then former waterboarder Molly Machete turns sanitary napkin database manager. The manager of the database demanded pressure services no sooner than you sat down to take a bite of your sandwich at 12:20 p.m.
And there's that other thing that was going on that prevented me from taking my rest breaks.
Yeah, I do sort of want to know.
Some demented guy would peer through the fence once shrink was done, and yell, "Hey, old chap. Hey, old chap," at me for about an hour. He thought it was a riot. He'd even set off the chattering teeth going, ugh.
Where are our chattering teeth? Well, what's wrong? We need our chattering teeth. This sounds like typical par for the course over there at Nouvelle Vague Novelty Toys. In fact, I recall Demas Helms telling us he was called something like old chap.
The only problem I ever had with Demas was he hit quite a few golf balls over the contamination, and he wanted them back. Once I had to try and push him back up onto the fence when he was trying to scale it. A lot of the time he'd ask me to throw the balls back.
Did you?
I didn't want my shoes tracking around that contamination.
I'm glad you lost the job at Cyclops. Maybe all of this would have stopped once it went to XIO415. They're a boring company. Your situation is more disturbing than boring.
I have a much better job now.
I'm glad to hear you've moved on.
Well, I still work in the area, but...
That might be unfortunate.
So why can't I get the private attorney general penalties?
You have to file those charges within a year of when the underlying labor code violation that caused those penalties existed.
Might be a problem since I haven't been at Cyclops Security in over 2 years.
It's sad because it sounds like you had a valid meal and rest break case. I don't know why the commissioner didn't give you more for rest breaks, though. You could have got 3 PAGA penalties per paycheck.
Oh, how much of that would I have received?
The government gets 75% of these PAGA penalties if there are 3 of them, or a maximum of $450 per pay period. If only meal and rest breaks were issued, you'd get a maximum of $150 a paycheck in PAGA penalties for the meal and rest break penalties.
Oh, that's a pretty big fine per paycheck.
The same violations are worth $100 on a non-PAGA theory.
Why didn't anybody tell me about that before?
I'm not sure if the labor commissioner is there to advise you of your maximum rights. There are also things they will not pursue. They can only pursue things within their jurisdiction. That's a big word. I once had a case in which millions of dollars of commissions were at stake, and the labor board told my client the matter was beyond their jurisdiction. Also, they can't sue for something like a breach contract. They can only sue or hear a case about certain violations of the labor code.
I thought I could go to the labor board, get an attorney to get me the rest of the money.
Unfortunately, that is not how it works. Statutes of limitations apply, and matters that could have been raised in the labor board proceeding can't be brought up if they weren't. The fact there was an actual decision at the labor board means you can't even have a jury decide some issues like how many meal or rest breaks you're prevented from taking or wherever you're prevented. The appeal you now face is before a judge.
So how much more could you have gotten me?
It's hard to say. I would have tried to get additional PAGA penalties related to the non-payment of overtime. I would have filed for a Labor Code Section 203 penalty for 30 days of wages because all of your wages were not paid when you were fired, and they never were because the overtime wasn't paid.
Well, the labor commissioner decided Cyclops knew I worked the overtime.
That might help us establishing the penalty.
I tried to find a lawyer before I filed with the labor board.
If you had called 877-525-0700, that's 877-525-0700, 877-525-0700, my office could have assisted you, or at least have referred your case out to somebody who could have helped you. If it's a case, but it's too small for us, we make a referral or two.
What if it's not a case?
My firm does not recommend people get involved in litigation they will lose due to the facts or the law or situations that simply are not a case. This makes a lot of people mad because they don't know the law and they think that a situation that sounds wrong must be a dead bang legal winner.
The guy I went to wanted a $10,000 retainer to start my case.
At least in Los Angeles area, it's pretty competitive these days with employment lawyers. It shouldn't necessary to have to pay someone up front.
The guy I went to was a real sleaze pit.
We had a guy like that on the last show, Dumas, a true discredit to the fictional characters on this show.
Dumas. Yeah, Dumas. How could you forget a name like that? He said the second S was silent, but the B was silent. Talk about bad memories.
He's a very unethical lawyer. He probably wanted to charge you hundreds of thousands to recover $6,000 on your case.
You know what I thought was weird?
Many things are quite odd on this show.
Dumas. I'm talking about Dumas. In order to get into his office, you had to walk through a massage clinic.
I've heard about that.
I tell you, I don't think it was a normal massage clinic. I think it was one where the masseuse is nude and so is the client.
I won't ask what gave you that idea.
I didn't get a massage there. That's what you think. I'm just saying it's...
Of course not, but Dumas is quite proud that VIP massages were once given in the very chair he sits.
Oh, God! Yuck! Oh, he told me to sit in his chair and pretend I was the lawyer and see how much I'd want to be paid if I had to buy a fancy chair like he had every year.
It's been better talking to you, chap, than some of the oddball guests I've had on the show. Stay away from contaminated job sites and always quit the job if they're bought out by an XIO 415 or an entity that specializes in dull and monotonous tasks.
Thanks.
All right, so we got this episode down pat, hopefully for all of you buffs on the labor code. The labor code buffs are going to tell you, meal breaks, 1 hour pay, right? You got to be non-exempt, right? Yeah. It's got to be before your 6 hour starts. And it's got to be uninterrupted for 30 minutes. You can't have a weird manager like Molly Machete demanding pressure services or things like that. Rest breaks. Well, that's where you get to sleep, right? Rest breaks now have to be uninterrupted also, and they're 10 minutes. One should probably be before your lunch break, and one should be after your lunch break. And we're thinking about 3.5 hours into the shift, you should get one, certainly by your 4th hour. Again, non-exempt. What does non-exempt mean? Non-exempt means you don't have independent discretion. It means you're not exempt. You're not a lawyer. You're not a doctor. You're not an artist. You're not somebody that primarily is engaged in intellectual thought, maybe management, something like that. That's a very important concept in labor law. The other thing we heard about was someone filed at the labor board, and he had a case that may have had merit. The labor board did not pursue all of the remedies, and there were additional fines and penalties and damages, whatever you want to call it, that he could have received, but he didn't because he went to a sleazy lawyer who happened to be Dumas from the last episode, the guy with the Brooklyn accent. And that guy wanted to charge him a lot of money up front for representation, and that wasn't good. You've listened tonight to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. I'm Karl Gerber. I do make up these episodes every week, but I don't make up the fact that I'm licensed in California and a number of other states to practice labor law. I represent employees. I would encourage you to call me if you have a real case. If you're a fictional character, it's fun, but I kind of don't have time for those kind of calls at the office, which you should call me at 877-525-0700. Once again, 877-525-0700. The office is 877-525-0700. We represent employees. Sometimes people call me out there to talk about other things too, like Los Angeles history, and I may, have that conversation with you if it's interesting. We're talking to a lot of people these days about the show. It's gotten some real buzz, and we're actually going to start selling sponsorships in the show. And what's kind of cool is the people that want to be the salespeople for it are fans of the show. That's good. So you should listen to the back episodes also, because some of them are very funny, and it will allow you to catch up and understand who we're talking about. We seem to reference other characters from earlier episodes. So I want you to have a great week at work, and hopefully it won't be too much workplace abuse. But if it is, I think you know what to do about it. So I'll talk to you next week, same station, same time on the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show.